As a teenager, I was embarrassed that my dad came on the 50-mile hike to the Trinity Alps with me. And to this day, I think it's one of my biggest regrets in life. Stay tuned, got a good story. All right, hey everybody, Dude here, and it's story time with Dude, or something like that. Anyway, this is part 3 of the Trinity Alps 50-mile hike Boy Scout saga. And obviously, if you watched, the first 2 in the Story Time with Dude playlist, I learned some pretty valuable lessons at a young age. Probably didn't realize those things till I was older. And here's another one. This is the third one. I was 11. I mean, literally just barely turned 12. So, we were out there in the Trinity Alps, Northern California. I told the story about the Sawtooth Mountain and a couple of valuable lessons I learned on that. And I don't remember a lot of the rest of the hike. I remember fishing in some streams. There were some lakes. I remember there was one called Emerald Lake that we went to. But the bigger portion of the story is my dad. My dad came on that hike. He was not one of the scout leaders. I think there was like 3 scout troops that combined. So there was, like I said, a bunch of kids. They needed a bunch of adults. And my dad taught school. So he had the summers off. So this hike was in the beginning of August or the end of July, something like that. And he came and was more of a father. So the problem with that is a lot, because he wasn't like a regular scout leader, or he wasn't going to the, activities and things like a lot of the other people were. He didn't know all the kids, so he kind of knew them. He knew them, but not like, you don't have that weekly interaction with them like the rest of the leaders do. And a little history. Now, my dad was an 8th grade science teacher, and literally in Rio Linda, California. We did not live in Rio Linda, thank goodness. We lived in Sacramento County, but the point is, not the best place. In 8th grade, a tough age. So he was used to dealing with punk kids and different things. So he'd come on these things. He wasn't afraid to talk to kids, all that kind of stuff. But he was also an 8th grade science teacher. So everything he did, he was on this hike, and he's talking to all the kids and pointing out, at nighttime, he's pointing out, the Big Dipper and astronomy stuff. And during the day, he's picking up rocks and, you know what kind of rock this is? And, he's all into science, right? And always spitting facts and stories. And now, as a 12-year-old insecure kid who had just had his pack carried, trying to finish off the top of the Sawtooth Mountain, and was really already embarrassed about that. Kids are kind of brutal, and they were a little bit brutal to me, teasing me and stuff about having to have help and things like that. I already covered that in the other video, but also started teasing me about my dad. And man, I just was not where I needed to be, mentally and developmentally to get it, and I remember just being so insecure, painfully so, and so embarrassed by my dad. It's like, would you just shut up? Like, stop telling stories. Like, stop talking to my friends. Stop talking to the kids. Just be the fat adult sitting in the corner here. Make sure nobody dies on this hike. You know what I mean? And sorry, windy. And I remember just being so beside myself. I didn't want to eat by him. I think on that first one, we shared a tent. And yeah, I just, and I remember just always feeling just like go away, Dad, Now, I realize a lot of teenagers are dumb like that. And I was no different. a little bit more about my dad. He, when I was younger, I played soccer, did Little League. He wasn't so much a Little League coach, but he really got into soccer. And I played soccer for probably, I don't know, 6-7 years. I didn't continue on like in high school. Probably should have. But I didn't. I did water polo and swim team. That's what all my friends were doing then. So that's what I did and enjoyed that. But like, my dad he always coached. And we had this, I remember when I was a really young kid, we had this soccer coach. Oh, I don't even know if I remember his name. Bald guy. But I remember he was good, And my dad was always like his assistant coach. And he always came to the practices and he would go out in the front yard with me and we'd kick a ball around. And, and even then I was like, and this is all on me because I was just so painfully insecure and shy at that stage of my life. And but looking back, and obviously this is one of those lessons that probably came later. I remember now I think I learned this lesson. Let me give you a little history here. My dad died when he was like 67. I'm pretty sure he had a heart attack. There was no autopsy done. My mom didn't want to do that to him. All the clues come together afterwards, this is a story for another day. It's a real pisser, but he, died like 2 or 3 days before retirement. He'd worked a few extra years to try and pick up some extra, pay for retirement. My mom and dad had this pop-up camper that they had purchased at the time. And again, this would have been in probably the 90s, late 90s, I think it was. And they'd only used that camper maybe 4 or 5 times. And when they retired, they were gonna like go up and down the coast of California, had these big things planned out. They really loved camping. Hold on, big dog. And they had big plans. Never got to do those things, which is one reason why this pop-up camper that's sitting in my garage is sentimental to me, because that is indeed the very same pop-up camper that they bought. And I have now restored it better than it ever was. I'm going to do a little video series on that. But yeah, me and my wife want to go we enjoy camping. We enjoy getting outdoors. And anyway, back to the story. There were signs, he, that very day, he had told one of his coworkers, like his best friend at work, that his arm was kind of numb, and he wasn't feeling right. And I was mad. After he died, I was pissed off. I'm like, why didn't you tell somebody? Why didn't you just go to the freaking hospital? You had the signs. Like, you should have known the signs. Don't mess around with that crap. Anyway, that night he couldn't sleep, and he went out to like get comfortable in the living room or something. And my mom woke up the next day and found him in the living room on the floor, and definitely had a heart attack. And it was devastating for me. My dad and I were becoming good friends. I always had a pretty good relationship with my parents. They were great parents. I have no complaints about them or the way I was raised. But I would talk to them on the phone. I was living in southern Utah then. They were still in Sacramento, which is a whole nother story for another day. Anyway, the day he died, we had a baby, our oldest, Taylor, the one that we just celebrated her 30th birthday. I was working a sales job, doing phone sales, little teeny office, 5 guys, pounding the phones, selling business to business, corporate development, leadership, skills, all that kind of stuff. And I remember my wife walked in all of a sudden one day, right in the morning, and I was on the phone, and she just ran back to the boss's office, and I was like, well, that's weird. And my boss, he's also my good friend and mentor, came right out, and he said, you need to get in my office right now. And I got off the phone, went back there, and my wife just hugged me, and it was all muffled, she was saying, he's gone. And I thought she was saying, she's gone. And I thought there was a problem with my daughter. And man, I was just that feeling of immense panic came over me. And then when I said, "What, Taylor?" And she goes, "No, your dad." And, but so I'm already crying. And it's weird because I felt like a brief sense of relief. Like, oh, it's not Taylor. And then it kind of set in that it's my dad. And from where I lived, Sacramento was about a 12-hour drive. I remember driving the whole way home. And the only thing I could think about was, I got to speak at his funeral. I have to speak. It's going to be hard. And I was, crying the whole way home, and pretty traumatic. He was too young. Too young. And that's one of the things fueling my little health journey right now too. But he was way too young, and I built a good relationship with him in my, young adult years. But one of my biggest regrets is thinking back to being a teenager, high up on the mountains, at different scouting activities, because we were pretty active in the Boy Scouts back then. And he always supported me from little league to soccer to high school sports to Boy Scouts to, I think he went on maybe 2 or 3 50-mile hikes. He went on some other summer hikes that we did. Anything he could go on, he would. And I just wish that you could knock sense into a 12-year-old young man to make me appreciate the love that he had for me. I remember speaking at his funeral and telling this story in a more summarized version, and just thinking, I remember one day it hit me. Where are all the other dads? I'm getting made fun of. I'm getting made to feel stupid or insecure. And my dad's the one that showed up. And I get it. He was a teacher. He had summers off. I mean, he had ability that maybe some people didn't. But man, we all know those dads that just weren't around, right? Absentee fathers. I was lucky. I was blessed to be able to call him my father. And I don't think I realized that. I just wish if I could do anything. I would love for him to point out a constellation. I'd give anything to pick up a stupid rock and have him say, "Oh, that's the, blah, 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 blah." Because that meant something. That was important. And so now with my own kids, my dad was always good. It's not like he never showed affection or told me that he loved me or anything, or proud of me or anything like that. But man, he loved Candace. He was a good father figure to her. He loved my daughter. We'll go into that story a little bit later. He almost didn't make it to see her. It's another story time with dude. Anyway, so now I try and cherish the people that are around me. I try and let them know, like, hey, like, I care. Like, my kids, I love you. I'm proud of you. My wife, I tell her all the time, I love her. Thank her for all the hard work that she does, and for who she is as a woman and as a person and as a wife. But it's one of those lifelong lessons looking back that I go, you have to appreciate what you have right now while you have it, or else you'll be sad when you regret it. And you'll be telling stories about woulda, coulda, shoulda. Things I wish I would have done, things I could have done, things I should have done. And that just sucks, So that about wraps up my Trinity Alps story. But I know my dad's proud of me. I know he's proud of the family that I've raised. I know my mom was real proud of me before she left. She's a whole nother story. And like I said, I'm very grateful for the family I was born into and for the mother and father that I had. And they helped shape me who I am today. which I'm not so insecure anymore, and I think I'm all right. So, got a great story about being young and insecure, but again, for another day. So I appreciate it. If you like the content, hope you follow along. I've been saying this every single day for like the last 80 something days, but we're doing it daily. And taking this weight loss challenge seriously, taking the YouTube thing seriously, trying to build a community here with a bunch of like-minded people who kind of can be there to support and encourage one another. And so yeah, that's my daily check-in. I'll post the accountability in a short, and I'll see you tomorrow, because we are doing it daily. Appreciate it. Love you guys. Dude out.